Breathe. Just breathe for a moment. Let the day go. Whatever it carried, the weight of it, the noise of it, the thousand small demands it made upon you, you can set all of that down now. Gently. The way you might set down something heavy you have been holding for far too long. Your hands can open. Your shoulders can soften. The muscles along your jaw, the space behind your eyes, the quiet tension you have been carrying in your chest. Let all of it begin, slowly, to release. You are safe here. This moment, this quiet, this darkness behind your closed eyes, it belongs entirely to you. The world outside may still be moving, spinning, hurrying along as it always does. But you are no longer required to move with it. Not now, not tonight. Tonight, you are invited into something older and more beautiful than rest as the world understands it. You are invited into a rest that was woven into the very fabric of creation itself. A rest that has been waiting for you since before you were born. Welcome to Bible Secrets, Hidden History. Tonight, we step away from the mysteries of the past to find the timeless rest and peace hidden within the sacred word. We return to the very beginning of everything, to the first morning that ever was, and to the first sacred evening that followed. We return to the moment when God Himself paused and looked out over all that existed and breathed a divine stillness into the heart of time. So close your eyes, if you have not already. Let the gentle darkness hold you, and allow tonight's story to carry you softly into sleep. As you settle into the quiet of this night, consider subscribing to Bible Secrets, Hidden History, and saving our sleep playlist to return to whenever rest feels far away. Let your like be a silent prayer that helps bring this peace to other weary souls tonight. And now, let us begin. Chapter 1. The evening of the 6th day. Before there was silence, there was sound. And before there was rest, there was labor. And it was the most beautiful labor the universe had ever known. For 6 days, something extraordinary had been unfolding. Something that had no name yet, because language itself was still young. Something that moved like music through what had once been formless and empty and dark. A voice had spoken into the void. Not a violent voice, not a commanding or frightening voice, but a voice, all like the first warm light of morning, like the low, certain note of a cello echoing through a cathedral. A voice that carried within it absolute authority and absolute tenderness in the same breath. And at the sound of that voice, everything began. Light gathered itself and glowed. Waters parted and found their boundaries, learning the shape of shores that would one day be walked by bare and wondering feet. The dry land rose, patient and dark and rich, with the deep mineral scent of everything that would ever grow from it. The smell of rain on stone, of turned earth, of roots reaching downward into mystery. Then the green things came. The grasses first, soft and swaying, followed by the trees with their long arms reaching upward, their leaves catching the new sunlight and the trembling with something that looked, if you watched closely enough, like gratitude. The waters filled with silver and shadow, with creatures that moved through the deep places without fear, their scales catching the filtered light like scattered prayers. The sky filled with wings, wings of every size and color, wings that beat against the clean, sweet air, with joy that seemed to have no particular destination and needed none. And then, on the 6th day, the land itself grew full of breath. Lions and deer and small creatures that burrowed into the warm earth, herds that moved together across wide plains, their movement like slow rivers. The whole world alive and breathing and good. And at the very last, in the cool of that 6th afternoon, something happened that changed everything. From the dust of the ground, from that same red, mineral-rich earth that had given rise to mountains and meadows, a form was shaped. Slowly, deliberately, with the kind of care that a craftsman uses when working on something that matters beyond measure. And into that form, into those still and waiting lungs, a breath was breathed. Not the breath of wind or weather, but the breath of the one who had made the wind and weather. The breath of life itself. And the man opened his eyes. He saw the sky, and it was the first sky any human eyes had ever seen. He smelled the garden, and it was the first garden any human lungs had ever breathed. He heard the birds, and it was the first bird song any human ears had ever known. Every sense he had was new. Every sense he had was overflowing. He was given a name, Adam. And he was given a home, a garden called Eden, a word that carried within it the ancient warmth of delight, of pleasure, of a place made ready with love. The garden smelled of jasmine and cedar and the particular sweetness of fruit ripening in warm air. There were rivers running through it, 4 rivers, their sounds overlapping like voices in a gentle conversation, one lower and slower, one bright and quick, their waters clear and cold against the hand. The light in the garden fell differently than it fell elsewhere, softer, more golden, more like the light inside a sanctuary than the sharp clarity of open sky. And then woman was formed, bone of his bone and flesh of his flesh, and the garden held 2 people, and laughter, and the soft sound of 2 voices learning each other's names. By the time evening came on that 6th day, everything that would ever exist on the earth had been given life. The sky above Eden was turning, slowly, from the pale gold of late afternoon into the deeper, softer shades of dusk. The birds were finding their branches. The animals were settling, breathing slower, the golden light along their flanks dimming into shadow. The rivers murmured on, steady and unhurried, faithful to the paths they had been given. The trees stood still in the windless evening, their leaves holding the last warmth of the day, like cupped hands holding water. And over all of it, seen by no human eye but felt by every living thing, the presence of the Creator moved, gentle, immense, and quietly, profoundly satisfied. He looked at everything he had made, and he called it very good. Those words, very good, drifted down over the garden like the first dew of evening, settling over leaf and petal, over fur and feather, over the sleeping faces of the man and the woman who had already closed their eyes on the world's first night. Very good, not merely adequate, not simply finished, but beautiful and whole and thoroughly worthy of love. The 6th day passed into evening, and the 7th day was about to begin. Chapter 2. The dawn of the 7th morning. There is a particular quality to dawn in a place that has never known sorrow. Can you imagine it? A sky lightening not over traffic or distant noise, or the faint anxiety of a day already making its demands, but over absolute stillness, over dew-covered grass and sleeping birds, and the untroubled breathing of a world that had never yet learned to be afraid. The horizon would have paled first, a slow softening from deep indigo to the quiet gray-purple that precedes all color. Then, the faintest warmth at the edge of the sky, a line of amber, then rose, then the gentle expanding gold of the sun beginning its first 7th day rising. No alarm, no urgency, only light returning, unhurried and certain, the way a promise returns after a long night of forgetting. The birds were the first to know it, as birds always are, attuned as they are to changes in the light, to something in the air that shifts before the sun appears. Somewhere in the high branches of a fig tree, a single note sounded, clear and round and brief, And then another bird answered from across the garden, and then another, until the air above Eden was filled with that first gentle chorus, layered voices rising into the new sky, the way smoke rises from a fire that is quietly, contentedly burning. The rivers heard it next, or perhaps it was the rivers that woke the birds. Either way, the water seemed different that morning, more luminous, catching the early light with a brightness that was almost like silver, almost like something that didn't quite have a name in any language that had yet been spoken. The ripples moved downstream with that unhurried ease that water has when it is going exactly where it was made to go. Adam stirred first. He lay for a moment in the soft grass at the edge of the garden, where he had fallen asleep the night before with his face turned upward toward the stars. He had watched those stars for a long time before sleeping, each one precise and still, placed in the dark with the same careful intention that had placed every grain of sand and every feather and every particular cell of cedar wood in the great pattern of everything that was. He had felt, watching them, the strange and wonderful sensation of being small and beloved at the same time, of being infinitesimally tiny within a universe of extraordinary vastness, and yet known, personally and tenderly known, by the one who had made it all. He had slept deeply, dreamlessly, the way you sleep when you are safe in a way that goes deeper than circumstance. Now he opened his eyes to the seventh morning. He did not know yet what would be different about this day. He did not know that something was about to be given to him and to all creation that had no physical shape, no color, no taste, no texture, and yet would be more real and more nourishing than anything the garden had yet offered. He sat up slowly, the dew cold and bright on the grass around him, the morning air carrying the scent of wild herbs and warm earth, and something else, something that was not exactly a scent, but that pressed against the edges of sensation, the faintest impression of nearness, of presence, of a holiness gathering itself in the quiet of the morning, like dawn gathering at the edge of the sky. He was quiet. He didn't know why, but he was quiet. There was something in this morning that asked for quietness, the way a cathedral asks for quietness, not by demanding it, but by offering something so large and so still that noise simply seems in its presence. Beside the point, the woman was awake beside him, her dark eyes open and watching the light change in the sky above the trees. She too was quiet. Whatever she was feeling, it was something the language they had not yet fully developed had no words for yet. But it was something like fullness, something like the sensation of arriving after a long journey, of reaching a threshold and stepping through into a space you recognize, somehow, as home. God rested. That is what the ancient text says, simply and without apology. On the seventh day, God rested. Hold those words gently for a moment. Let them settle over you the way the light was settling over Eden that morning, slowly, without forcing, finding every surface and touching it with warmth. The creator of everything, the one whose voice had called light into being, whose breath had filled human lungs with life, whose intention had placed every star in its arc across the darkness, rested, not because he was tired, not because the work had exhausted him, but because rest itself was holy, because the pause between the notes is as much a part of the music as the notes themselves, because ceasing and being still and drawing a long, unhurried breath over something completed and good and whole, this too was sacred. And in resting, he blessed the day. He set it apart. He sanctified it. He made it somehow different from all the other days, charged with a particular quality of holiness, as a gem is charged with a particular quality of light when it is cut and placed just so in the path of the sun. The seventh day was not a day of absence. It was not a day of nothing. It was a day of fullness. A day when creation paused to simply be what it had been made to be. When the garden breathed in the silence of its own completeness. When the rivers ran on because they could not do otherwise but did so, with the unhurried ease of things that have nowhere more important to be. It was and remains the oldest invitation in the world. To stop, to be still, to trust that the work is done, and done well, and that you, yes you, are held within that goodness, as much a part of it as the cedar trees and the rivers and the morning birds. Chapter 3. The stillness of the holy day. Sometime in the late morning of that first seventh day, the sun reached the high point of its arc above Eden, and the heat settled over the garden in that way that midday heat does. Not oppressive, because this world did not yet know oppression, but warm and heavy and slow, the kind of warmth that makes the body want to lie down in the shade of something tall and simply rest. The animals had already understood. The deer had gathered in a grove of willows at the river's edge, lying in the soft mud with their legs folded beneath them, their ears moving occasionally at some distant sound but their bodies perfectly still. The great cats, too, their long bodies stretched across smooth rocks in the sun, their eyes half closed, their breathing slow and audible. The small birds had ceased their morning songs and found their perches in the deeper shade of the canopy. Even the insects had quieted. The hum that had filled the air since sunrise had subsided into something softer, more intermittent, like the last few notes of a song that is finding its ending. Everything was resting. Not the rest of exhaustion, but the rest of completion, the rest of things that have been fully what they were made to be, and have now arrived at the natural pause on the other side of fullness. Adam and the woman walked together that morning, slowly. There was no task before them, no garden to tend, no naming yet undone, no particular purpose to the walking except the walking itself. The simple, unhurried pleasure of moving through the beauty of the world with someone beside you. Their feet were bare in the grass. The ground was warm beneath them. They stopped at the river and knelt to drink the water so cold it made the back of the throat ache with the sweetness of it, so clear that they could see the stones at the bottom shifting faintly in the current. There is a kind of happiness that is too quiet for celebration. A happiness that doesn't want to shout or reach for anything or change in any direction. A happiness that is content to simply exist within its own rightness, like a note held at the center of a chord, complete and sufficient, and surrounded on all sides by harmony. This was that kind of happiness. And it is available to you still. It is old and unhurried, and does not ask anything of you except that you be willing, tonight, to receive it. The same presence that moved through the Garden of Eden on that first Sabbath morning is here, in this quiet, in the dark behind your eyes, in the slow rise and fall of your chest as you breathe. The blessing that was placed upon that seventh day was not temporary. It was woven into the fabric of time itself, a recurring gift, a recurring invitation returning to you with every night that comes to take the day away. You are held. You are safe. Whatever was unfinished today will still be there tomorrow, and you will meet it then, rested and replenished, with strength that you cannot find at the bottom of effort, but only at the other end of rest. For now, in this hour, you are released from all of it. In this darkness, in this quiet, you are in the same position as Adam in the soft grass of Eden, watching the stars with a heart that is full and a mind that has finally, mercifully, grown still. Let that stillness come deeper now. Let it move into the places that are still holding on, the shoulders, the jaw, the space between your eyes. Let the warmth of it, that ancient Sabbath warmth, seep into the cold and tired corners of you. You don't have to do anything to earn it. You only have to receive it, the way a dry field receives rain, openly, completely, without resistance. Chapter 4. The Evening Prayer of All Created Things. As the seventh day moved toward evening, as the light began its long golden descent toward the western edge of the garden, painting the sky in layers of amber and persimmon and the particular deep rose that exists only in those last minutes before dusk, something gathered itself in the air above Eden that was equal parts sound and silence. It was the prayer of all created things, not a prayer in words, because most of the creatures that offered it had no words, but a prayer in breath and motion, in the turning of leaves toward the fading warmth, in the settling of birds onto their nighttime branches, in the way the rivers seemed to slow slightly in the diminishing light, their voices dropping to a lower, more intimate register. The whole of creation leaning into the dusk with a kind of gratitude that had nowhere else to go and nothing else to do but simply be itself, which was, it turned out, more than enough. The man and the woman stood together at the edge of the garden where the trees opened onto a wide plain, and they watched the sun set over the world that had been made for them. Neither spoke. There was nothing to say that the sky was not already saying more eloquently, more completely. With every shift of color, every lengthening shadow, every star that appeared one by one in the darkening east, like lights being kindled in distant rooms. The first star always appeared in the east. Adam had noticed this. He didn't understand yet why it was so, didn't know about the rotation of the earth, the particular geometry of its tilt, the vast distances that the light had traveled to reach him. He only knew that every evening, the east darkened first, and the first star was always there waiting. A small, reliable light at the edge of the known world. It comforted him in a way he couldn't name. There are things that comfort us before we understand why. A particular quality of light on a familiar wall. The sound of rain against a window. A voice in another room, speaking too softly to be heard distinctly, but heard enough. The fact of it enough. The presence of it enough. These are old comforts, deep comforts, the kind that reach past the thinking mind into something older and quieter in us, something that was shaped, perhaps, in gardens we have never visited, but somehow remember. The blessing of the seventh day was not only for the man and the woman, it was for every creature that breathed, for the deer by the river and the birds in the branches and the great slow fish in the deep water, for the roots of the trees reaching down into dark earth, for the grass that had lain in the sun all day and would now lie in the dew of night, held between warmth and cold, between day and the grace of darkness, for the whole living world spread out in every direction from that first sacred garden, all of it resting in the enormous, unhurried, watchful care of the one who had made it. You are part of that world. You belong to that blessing. It was given not only to that first man and that first woman in that first garden on that first seventh evening. It reaches forward through all the years between then and now. It reaches into this room, into this quiet, into the specific tired and particular tenderness of you. Tonight, lying in your bed with the day finally done and the night finally, mercifully. Come, rest is a holy thing, sleep is a gift. The darkness is not empty. It is full of the same presence that hovered over the waters in the beginning, that breathed life into dust and made it stand, that watched the first seventh day settle into its evening and called it blessed. The darkness of your room tonight is held within that same blessing. The silence around you is not absence. It is the presence of something immeasurably kind, immeasurably patient, keeping watch over everything that it has made and loved, including you, especially you, the closing blessing. And so the first seventh day came to its close. The stars had fully come into their own above the garden, countless and still, each one in its appointed place, each one doing quietly and faithfully exactly what it had been made to do. The rivers moved on through the darkness, murmuring their endless, soft conversation with the stones. The sleeping animals breathed, the trees stood, the earth rested beneath the weight of everything that lived upon it, steady and patient and good. Over all of it, around all of it, through all of it, peace. Not the peace that comes from the absence of trouble, but the peace that is deeper than trouble. The peace that does not shift when the surface shifts. The peace that is resting at the bottom of every storm. The peace that was here before any of this began, and will be here long after the last day ends. That peace is yours tonight. Breathe it in. Let it move through you like the slow current of a gentle river. Let it soften the last hard places. Let it reach the places that are still, even now, holding a little too tightly, and let it loosen them, gently, the way warmth loosens cold muscles, the way dawn loosens night. You have done enough today. You have been enough. And now, the seventh day rest is yours, not because you earned it, not because you finished everything on your list or said all the right words or managed to be everything that was asked of you, but because rest is a gift, because stillness is a grace, because the same God who looked out over the first completed creation and called it very good is looking tonight at you, at your tired hands and your full heart and your weary, beautiful, trying its best self, and saying the same thing. Very good. You are very good. The day is complete. The work is done. The night has come with its old, faithful mercy to cover everything over in quiet and darkness, and the dreamless deep that restores what the day has spent. Let yourself go now. Let the last thoughts soften and loosen. Let the words themselves become quieter, further away, like voices heard across water. Still present, still gentle, but not requiring anything of you, not pulling you back from the edge of sleep, only accompanying you softly as you go. The garden is resting, the rivers are running, the stars are in their places, and you are held as you have always been held, as you will always be held, in the hands that made the morning and blessed the evening and set aside this sacred stillness, this holy rest, this ancient and enduring gift of peace. Breathe and rest, and know that all is well. All is very, very well. The music continues softly and carries you the rest of the way home.